What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for May 23rd, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Feel Good Friday, a Memorial Day weekend Feel Good Friday, the unofficial beginning of summer Feel Good Friday. And if you didn't know, I'm feeling good. All right, let's get right into it. We'll start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I said, now that we're approaching Memorial Day, are you in on the Phillies? 80% of you said, yes, you are. A lot of people saying, well, I'm going to support them no matter what. First or last, they're very streaky. They need to kind of pace themselves to avoid what happened last year. Don't disagree with that. A lot of people saying, I was never out on them. Also a fair and valid point. But I think that 20% is just our old friends who are just negative about everything. I have one guy who every time I post something on Facebook, it's a negative comment. He's in my circle of friends, always kind of the Debbie Downer sometimes of the group. Some might say Debbie Downer, some might say voice of reality. Either way, wasn't happy that they give up runs late with the bullpen, thinks it's going to come back and bite them. Fair point. But 80% of you are in. Lots of folks saying, yeah, well, it was the Rockies and the Pirates, blah, 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 blah. Well, Phillies did win yesterday 2-0. Bryce Harper and Max Kepler knocked in the runs. Thank you, by the way, as always, for participating in the question of the day. Even the Negadelphia fans out there. But Kepler, Bryce knocked in both runs. Ranger was solid, 6 2/3 inning. Would have liked to see him go a little bit deeper, but being that he's still kind of working his way in, I'll be all right. Struck out 6. I feel as though this game, the Phillies had the mindset, hey, it's a getaway day. We're traveling to Sacramento. They kind of played like a team that just wanted to get the hell out of Colorado, especially after scoring so many runs the first 3 games of the series. Excuse me. So I'll take it. Romano was solid in the bullpen. Again, that is now 7 in a row. And for all of you out there who are saying, yeah, but it was the Pirates and the Rockies. Listen, you can only play who's in front of you. And I feel as though the Phillies, especially, maybe not so much the Pirates, because Paul Skeens is he's a stud. But the Phillies were damned either way. If they lost one of the games to the Pirates or the Rockies, they would have been ripped. And because they swept them, everybody's saying, yeah, well, it's the Pirates and the Rockies. Listen, you can only play who's in front of you. They took care of business. They did exactly what they needed to do, and then some. I feel as though it's a good get-right spot, this 3-game series, or 3-series stretch between the Pirates, the Rockies, and the A's. Now, the A's are a little bit more of a competitive team than they were last year, and certainly more than the Rockies and the Pirates. But, listen, I liken it to college football all the time. The SEC schools will put a couple cupcakes strategically in their schedule. Big Ten teams will play the MAC teams to start the season. They do that to get right, to work things out. So these 2 series came at a perfect time for the Phillies. I feel like Bryce is getting better. He's got his timing and everything down. The players themselves are hitting and doing what they need to do. The bullpen, Romano has been great, kind of working through some things. I heard an interview with him that he's just back to pitching the way he knows how. So this is what it is. Like these teams schedule cupcakes in college football all the time for this reason. So if the Phillies struggled in these series, then I'd be like, all right, we have issues. But I look at it like this. the Oklahoma Sooners are coming to Lincoln Financial Field next year to play the Temple Owls. Not because Temple's any good, but it's money and it gives them a good tune-up before in the middle of their SEC schedule. So we'll be all right. I'll take it. I'm glad that they swept. They got things going. I still don't feel as though they've played their best baseball yet, which bodes well, I think, going into it. The schedule obviously is going to get tougher, so I'm anxious to see how they do with that. But good week for the Phils, 7-0, as they head out to Sacramento to take on our old friends, the Athletics. More on them later. Zach Wheeler is on the mound tonight. It's West Coast baseball. Not going to be watching any Phillies games until Sunday afternoon because there is a 0.0% chance I will be awake tonight at 10 o'clock to watch the first pitch. But good week for the Phils. Good win. Still in first place going into Memorial Day. If you'd have told me that at the beginning of the season, I would have taken it. And to know that they haven't played their best baseball yet, even better. All right, let's do some quick housekeeping because we got a big show today. We always have big shows on Fridays. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. I have some huge things coming up this summer, so stay tuned for that. As always, be sure to look for highlights on my social media, including my Facebook and LinkedIn. Just photos, videos, newspaper clippings, things like that that tie in with what we're talking about. Since we are part of the Clashing Conferences fan network, that opens up new sponsors. I've been telling you about Lotwin. They make those 3D custom hype chains. These things are awesome. Great dude that does the artist that does this. So go to lotwin.com. Use the promo code CCCPOD for 10% off your order. Great for swimming, little league, bachelor parties, fantasy football. You name it, they're good. Just get one to annoy your wife. If you're like me, sometimes you just want to annoy your wife. Get one with your face, or get one with, even better, with her face, and just annoy your wife. But go to lotwin.com. CCCPOD is the promo code to take 10% off your order. Get your custom 3D hype chain. All right, it's official. The greatest seasons in Philly sports history is set to kick off June 3rd. We'll go through all of June and the rest of July. We'll do a preview on the 31st. Unveil half of the bracket on June 1st, the other half on June 2nd. The 48 greatest seasons, 12 for each of our 4 major sports teams. And if you're familiar with our summertime tournaments, 2 years ago we did the Lovable Losers tournament where the 2000-2001 Sixers won. Last year we did the ultimate Philly sports nickname where Chocolate Thunder, I believe, was the winner of that. I should check on that. I meant to do that and just got sidetracked this morning with my prep, but I believe Chocolate Thunder won. But we have fun with that. It gives us something because after the NBA Finals and the drafts for the NHL and NBA, there's not much other than the Phillies. So the tournament is a fun way for us to spend the summer. This year, we're looking at the greatest individual seasons in Philly sports history. Looking forward to that. That kicks off June 3rd. We'll start previewing the tournament and everything May 31st, though. The Union do know who they're going to play in the next round of the quarterfinal round of the U.S. Open Cup, and it will be an old rival, the New York Red Bulls. They will play that game on July 8th as they kind of navigate through the MLS schedule. I've been mentioning it, going down tomorrow. They're playing the Miami team and Messi. Looking forward to that with the family. All right, yesterday's trivia answer. I asked you, who was the first ever draft pick by the Philadelphia 76ers? A lot of people were guessing Billy Cunningham, and Billy Cunningham was their second first-round draft pick. He was drafted in 1965 in the first round. And the answer is Lucius Jackson out of the University of Texas Pan American. He was an all-rookie and an all-star in 1964, had a solid NBA career, played with the Sixers through 1972, never reaching the peak of that 1964 season. Did win a championship with the Sixers as well. But Lucius Jackson was the Sixers' first ever draft pick. Not to be confused with Luscious Jackson, the band. However, Luscious Jackson does take its name from Lucius Jackson. I was able to confirm that. So there you go. A little bit of music trivia as well.
It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday, only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It is time for Fridays with AI. We got a good one today. And as you know, every Friday we like to spend with AI, ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. And today, in honor of the Phillies going out to Sacramento to play the Athletics, we all know that the Athletics were in Philly from 1901 to 1954. financial reasons, family issues among the Mack family, Connie Mack just getting old and more miserable than what he was in his younger days, declining performance of the teams, and the growing popularity of the Phillies all kind of led to the A's moving to Kansas City. The AL, the American League, did not want the A's in Philly. They did not think it was viable because of the Phillies. But there was a large group, and there still is today, that support the Athletics in Philly and wish they had never left. My friend John Foley always talks about bringing the A's back to Philly. But ultimately, there was an investment group of local Philadelphia businessmen who wanted to buy the A's. A deal was in place, and then the American League put some pressure on some people, and I forget the guy's name, but he was the owner of Yankee Stadium, swooped in, made a bigger offer than what the Philly group was, forcing basically the Macks to have no other choice. And that's where some of the issues came, because Connie Mack still wanted to keep them in Philly, but his sons were like, look at this money. Ultimately, they were sold and then moved to Kansas City. But I wonder, and I asked AI this, what if the Athletics had stayed in Philly? What if one of those groups did buy, the local Philly groups did buy the A's and kind of partnered with the Mack family? Well, AI said the first thing they would have done is renovate Connie Mack Stadium. That was one of the biggest things, even in the 50s. It needed to be updated. It was an older stadium. So they took some of that money, reinvested in the team. They reinvested in Connie Mack Stadium and tried to bring the A's back to where their prominence was in the 20s and the teens, I guess you would call them. So from 1955 to 1970, this would be considered the golden rebirth of this storied American League franchise. Philly would remain a two-team town, but through a push toward player development, looking at local talent, scouting, and just really kind of the precursor of what we see today with analytics and things like that, the A's kind of rise back to prominence and become the number one team in Philly due to the way they were winning and kind of building the team. They were gritty, smart, like a working class blue collar type team. It was the perfect fit for Philly. And because of the kind of the decline then in the 50s of the Phillies, the A's coming back to prominence, the A's were by far the number one baseball team in Philly. Through the 1960s, they would win 4 American League pennants, 1962, 64, 65, and 69. Winning the World Series in both 64 and 65. They go back-to-back. Even though they put money into Connie Mack Stadium, it obviously was just a very, very old stadium. So the Vet still opens up in 1971. The A's still share it with the Eagles, but they make it more baseball friendly. It's still the multi-purpose stadium, but the vision that AI had was it was more like kind of like the Oakland Coliseum or Jack Murphy Stadium. If you remember watching like the 4 o'clock AFC West games on TV when we were kids, you know how you always saw the outline of the baseball field during a Raiders game? Well, that's sort of the vision. The sight lines and everything were geared toward baseball, not so much football. The Eagles kind of just fit in where they can. So that's kind of what happened to the A's from the 1950s to the 70s, or into the early 70s. What happened to the Phillies? Well, the Phillies, due to the rise in popularity of the A's, lack of performance on the field, and really, the American League was right. I don't think Philly would be viable for 2 Major League Baseball teams. There's just not enough people. I looked it up. Obviously, New York, LA, they have a lot of teams, and they're bigger. Chicago is even like double the size almost of Philly, so they can kind of sustain it. And the geography in Chicago even sort of lends itself to that. But the Phillies were kind of the odd man out then. They relocate to Montreal and become the Royals. Not the Royals, the Royals, because of the French connection. Major League Baseball wanted to get into Canada. Montreal was the ideal landing spot for the Phillies. but they became the Montreal Royals, and they moved in 1960. More on them here in a minute. So throughout the 70s, though, the Athletics were a solid competitive team, that gritty, hardworking blue collar, but they couldn't overtake the hated Yankees. Like the A's-Yankees rivalry in the AL East, and even back to the early days of the AL before they switched to divisions. The rivalry was good, but the A's just could not overtake them in the 70s. They did win the AL East in 1974, but that was pretty much kind of the extent of the A's success in the 70s due to just how good the Yankees were. Meanwhile, up in Montreal, the Royals were still a solid team, very much beloved by the fans up there. They still end up with Mike Schmidt, so he's sort of the cornerstone, and which I thought was ironic because of how much success he had against the Expos in his career, becomes sort of the main guy in Montreal. So into the 80s, 1983, it was a full circle moment. The Athletics win the American League pennant, and the Royals win the National League pennant. But it was the Royals, led by Mike Schmidt, beating the Athletics in 6 games in the A's triumphant return to the World Series. But throughout the rest of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, the Athletics were just amazing. They kind of got it back together, rose back to prominence. They were American League champions in 86, 97, 2001, 02, 2010, and the COVID-shortened 2020 season, winning the World Series in 2000, 2008, and 2019. So all told, in this scenario, this alternate reality, the Athletics made 20 playoff appearances, won 9 American League championships, and 5 World Series titles. Meanwhile, the Phillies, who moved to Montreal to become the Royals, won 5 National League pennants and 1 World Series title in 1983. Near the end of this simulation, the Royals were starting to get better, similar to what the Phillies are now, becoming competitive, a young team kind of reinvesting in their farm system. So what does it mean for sort of the rest of the Philadelphia sports scene? Well, in 1992, that's when Camden Yards, around the time Camden Yards opened up, the Athletics were sort of right there with the Orioles in wanting to go back to those old school, kind of more open, nostalgic feel stadiums. So they, at the same time that the Orioles were building Camden Yards, the Athletics built Max Stadium down in the Navy Yard. Very similar vibe and feel to the Camden Yards. Kind of looked out over the river and everything. It was cool to see the Navy ships in the background. The Eagles still stay at the Vet and stay there until Lincoln Financial Fields open up. But it does kind of change the narrative of Philly sports. And it's amazing how little things like this change things, because the Athletics left, had some success in Oakland in the 70s and even in the late 80s. But by them staying in Philly, it changes the whole kind of narrative of Philly being an underachieving sports team, never getting over the top. And also, baseball is huge in Philadelphia if the Athletics stayed and had that success. Kind of like the A's are the 1 and the Eagles are like the 1A. Due to just their consistent success. They're always near the top of the American League and things like that. So there you have it. Fridays with AI, alternate reality. What would have happened if the Athletics stayed? There are still some people out there today that feel as though the wrong team left Philly. I, for one, am not one of them. I think we need to celebrate and appreciate what the A's did in Philadelphia. But I'm glad that we're Phillies fans. But what do you think about this alternate reality? Do you think it's viable? Do you think the A's would have success if they had stayed? And what do you think about the Phillies moving to Montreal and becoming the Royals? But there you go. Thank you for spending Fridays with AI with me. The alternate reality if the A's stayed in Philadelphia and not the Phillies. But that does lead to today's question of the day. Let's have a little bit of fun with this. We talked earlier this week about the Syracuse Nationals moving to Philly and becoming the 76ers after the Warriors had left. If you could bring one of the former pro teams back to Philadelphia, who would you bring back? Would you bring back the Warriors or the Athletics? I'm interested to see how this goes because obviously the A's are always have been since Connie Mack sold the team, kind of a team that's always been on the move. They went to Kansas City, Oakland, then they moved out of Oakland. Now they're up in Sacramento, moving to Vegas in a couple years. Warriors, obviously, recent success, but I don't know. Obviously, the A's won more championships in Philly than the Royals did. But if you could bring back one of those teams, who would you bring back? Would it be the Warriors or the Athletics? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest? Want to rip me for being in on the Phillies? That's fine. Comment on Fridays with AI. All of that is fair game. Be sure to check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast. 2 new podcasts out. Go to clashingconferences.com, though, to see how you can be a member. Always looking to grow the network. Always looking to grow the guys that will participate in the podcast. All of that is available where you get your podcast as well as on YouTube. But again, if you're in need of media services, Steven can help you out there too. So just go to clashingconferences.com, see how you can get involved as well as see how you can join the network and what they can do for you. And then, of course, still plenty of time to celebrate the Tush Push. Go to Philly Goat. Look at their Tush Push collection, whether it's slides, the shorts, the sweats, the T-shirts. They got you covered because that's what Philly Goat does. Go to phillygoat.com. Be sure to scroll through their site, too. Lots of good gifts for Father's Day, birthday presents. Gear up. It's summertime, kids. It is summertime. They got you covered for that, too. And use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, May 23rd. And first, we're going to go back to 1982. And on this day in 1982, 1 year after blowing a 3-1 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals, the ghost of Sixers playoff failure were in full force up at the Boston Garden. Game 7, Eastern Conference Final. Sixers once again were up 3-1, losing the next 2 games. Everybody had to have been tight. Would this be the year, another year where the Sixers choked the lead? No. This time the Sixers did not let up, beating the Celtics 120-106 and setting up a rematch of the 1980 NBA Finals with the Lakers. Andrew Toney, the Boston Strangler, led the way with 34 points for the Sixers. Dr. J, the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals, had 29. Mo Cheeks added 11 assists, and with about 26 seconds left in the game, the Boston crowd, despite the fierce rivalry with the Sixers, started a Beat LA chant, knowing that no matter what, whether it's the Celtics or the Sixers, everybody hated the Lakers. So it was a pretty cool moment to hear the old Boston Garden crowd going, "Beat LA, beat LA." Unfortunately for the Sixers, it was not meant to be, as they would lose once again to the Lakers in 6 games. But this ultimately led to them acquiring Moses Malone, which we know put them over the top, and they were able to do it. But on this day, the Sixers avoided blowing their second straight 3-1 lead, beating the Celtics 120-106 in the Boston Garden. Game 7, Eastern Conference Final, the famous Beat LA game, setting up a rematch of the 1980 Finals. Fast forward to 1991. Phillies, ironically enough, were up in Montreal to take on the Expos. They would beat them 2-0. Darren Fletcher and Ricky Jordan knocked in both of the Phillies' runs. But the big story was starting pitcher Tommy Greene pitching the 8th no-hitter in Phillies history. He walked 7, struck out 10. Now, the backstory to this is even more amazing. Tommy Greene was not a regular in the Phillies starting rotation in 1991. He was only making his second start of the season, only his 15th of his career, and he was filling in for Danny Cox, who pulled his groin in his last start. So he was sort of just thrown in there. Did pretty well, I would say, throwing a no-hitter. He became the first visiting pitcher to throw a no-hitter at Olympic Stadium. He would actually go on to be a mainstay in the Phillies rotation, went 16-4 in the 93 NL championship season. Missed a large chunk, too. I completely forgot about this. He missed most of 1992 with an injury, and he was one of those big question marks with the Phillies coming back in 93, but he was able to put it together. And on this day in 1991, Tommy Greene pitches the 8th no-hitter in Phillies history. And a little side note on this, if you're watching the highlights on my social media, love the gray. I forgot about these uniforms too. Everybody remembers the maroon uniforms that the Phillies wore at home, but everybody associates the powder blue as the road uniforms. I forgot. I believe it was during day games, maybe, or what maybe it was just all games. I can't remember. But the all gray with the maroon P jerseys, I really like them. I wouldn't mind the Phillies bringing them back. But Tommy Greene pitches a no-hitter today in 1991, blanking the Expos 2-0. Does lead us to today's trivia question. There have been 14 no-hitters in Phillies history. Not 14 different teams, though. They've only no-hit 9 teams. 5 of the 14 teams have been no-hit twice. Name the franchises, keyword there, franchises. Name the 5 franchises that the Phillies have no-hit more than once. Hit me up on the Discord channel, which is live. Go to the description to click the invitation. Let's have some good Memorial Day weekend Philly sports talks. But there is a Phillies trivia channel. Go, let me know, what are the 5 teams that the Phillies have no-hit twice? There you go. Or 5 franchises. 5 franchises. Key distinction there. And once I give you the answer, you'll know why. And then finally today, we're winding this down. It's the unofficial start of summer. We're adding to our summer Philly sports themed playlist. It will be available on Spotify. But today, we're going Motown Philly by Boyz II Men. Released in 1991. Reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. We all know Boyz II Men. I told you the backstory on that before. Discovered by Michael Bivins of Belle Biv DeVoe, formerly of New Edition. Backstage at a Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff concert. But Motown Philly is the quintessential Philly song from the 90s. Still played at all of the Philly sporting events and games. Really gets the crowd going. Good for your summertime playlist. Everybody loves Boyz II Men. Everybody loves Motown Philly. And that is today's Philly Sports Summertime Playlist Song of the Day. Motown Philly by Boyz II Men. And along the same lines in the genre, give you a bonus track today, and that is Word Up by Cameo. I got this one. First of all, I love this song. I say Word Up all the time. But Cameo, Word Up by Cameo was released on the Eagles Kelly Green playlist a couple years ago when they came back with the Kelly Green uniforms. They came back with like a late 80s, mid-90s playlist of just great songs. So they play this a lot, but Word Up by Cameo is our bonus song to go along with Motown Philly. Motown Philly's Back Again by Boyz II Men. On this day in 1991, Tommy Greene pitched a no-hitter, the 8th in Phillies history, up in Montreal as the Phillies beat the Expos 2-0. Beat L.A. This day in 1982, the Boston Celtics crowd up in the Boston Gardens wished the Sixers good luck as they would go out to L.A. to play the Lakers in the NBA Finals. Sixers avoiding blowing a 3-1 lead for the second straight year. Unfortunately, they would not beat LA until they got Moses Malone a year later. We spent Fridays with AI. Let me know your thoughts on if you could bring back one of the former pro teams. Would it be the Warriors or the Athletics? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Today's trivia question. What are the 5 teams that the Phillies have beat or no-hit twice? The 5 franchises that the Phillies have no-hit twice. I'll get it right. I promise. I'll get it right. All right. Don't forget to check out Philly Goat, Clashing Conferences, Lot Win, all of our great sponsors. We'll have more, even though I won't be watching it. We'll have more on the Phillies as they open up their series against our old friends, the Athletics. Union take on Miami and Messi tomorrow. It's going to be a big weekend. If you're going out tonight, doing something, be safe. Don't do anything stupid. It is Memorial Day, but doesn't mean you have to be an idiot. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for May 23rd, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a feel-good Friday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.